Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by. Sing songs of love, let the music get you high.
I absolutely oppose Virgin Galactic and all commercial space flights. Sad how Mayor Keller, Senator Martin Heinrich, many city and state leaders support commercial space flights. Do they give a damn about the worsening climate crisis threatening our human survival? Big money blinds us to reality. If we care about slowing the catastrophic climate crisis for the future, we must make huge changes now in how we live. Two of the worst ways to travel are cars and planes, if we give a damn about the environment. I've ridden in no car for 20 years. I've owned no car for 42 years. I have flown in no plane for over 30 years, and I never will again unless I'm forced to do so against my will. Commercial space flights, as Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos took, are far worse for the climate crisis than flying on a passenger plane. It costs $2.5 million a minute, 10 minutes for $25 million. Instead of damning such a stupid, selfish, climate-destroying waste of money, sadly, many politicians in New Mexico celebrate it. Think what that $25 million per trip could have done to help many sick, hungry people with no home. If this insane new toy catches on with many filthy rich people taking commercial space flights at Virgin Galactic and other locations, they will worsen the catastrophic climate crisis terribly. Why do millions of people want to do this evil insanity if they had the money? People all over the world who eat more healthy than most people in this country, people all over the world who live more simply and not in the modern rat race of the Western world, these people with lower stress average 2 or 3 shits a day. 2 or 3 shits a day. But people all over the world who eat lots of meat and dairy, people all over the world who do not exercise enough, people all over the world who suffer more stress and eat processed white flour and sugar crap, average 3 shits a week. 3 shits a week instead of 2 or 3 a day. Meat and dairy have no fiber for good shitting. Processed white flour and sugar crap, macaroni, bread, cake, cookies, fry bread, donuts, have very little fiber. So in a lifetime of 80 years, the average modern living person has over 60,000 less shits than those people who eat mostly plant foods, who suffer less stress, and who exercise more. Death begins in the colon. Damn constipation, like a partly clogged toilet. The time it takes for all food to go from our mouth to our asshole should be no more than 36 to 48 hours max. And so if you want to see how close you are to that, eat some green peas and check yourself. Are any peas coming out more than 48 hours after you ate them? People in the United States have the highest rate on earth of cancer and other disease of the colon, the large intestine, the bowel. My granny, my mother's mother, whom I was very close to, suffered cancer of the colon and the liver and wore a bag, a colostomy bag, for a year and a half before she died at 89. A colostomy bag is put on people where they have a blockage, often cancer, in the colon, and the shit comes out of a hole in the side of their abdomen into the bag. And it can be prevented completely by eating only healthy plant foods, preferably raw, lots of fiber. Millions in the United States have 3 or 4 pounds, even 10 to 25 pounds of shit in their colon, especially if they have huge bellies. Constipation can cause headaches, digestion problems, backaches. Constipation can cause immune problems, hormone problems, lack of energy, and finally, death. The living simply people who eat more fiber, much more fiber than the average person in this country, have shits 3 times as heavy as modern living people eat, who consume far less fiber, as modern living people eating far less fiber. So who lives more wisely? Who lives more healthy than those who live more simply off the land, foods fresh from the earth, not from the damn factories? We can change our ways. We can wise up. More than 14,000 scientists in many nations have condemned world leaders for not taking action on the main causes of the climate crisis and the worsening climate emergency. These more than 14,000 scientists from many nations say, stop the use of fossil fuels, gas, oil, and coal. Secondly, greatly reduce chemicals that are poisoning our environment. 3, bring back the natural plants and animals that have been destroyed in many places. 4, switch what we eat away from meat and dairy to mainly foods from plants. And 5, stop the population explosion of humans so that no more total human beings alive in the future than are living now on earth. So that means people who choose to have children should have far less than so many families have for centuries. If you want children, you don't have to give them birth necessarily. There are so many children in this world who need loving, caring parents. They're already here, these children. Adopt or become foster parents. And if you have birth children of your own, I urge you to seriously consider having no more than 1, or at the most 2. If you give a damn about the kind of world they're going to be living in, with an exploding population and worsening climate. These more than 14,000 scientists from many nations say the Earth's environment is getting much sicker, faster than it ever has in human history. These more than 14,000 scientists say that all schools need to teach students about the worsening climate crisis they face in their lives. And I would add, not only teach students about the worsening climate crisis, but how to change their lives to slow the horrors that otherwise will overtake those who live after us. I eat much fresh, raw, whole fruit. Not fruit juice, but fresh, raw, whole fruit. Often blended. Not juice, blended. And if it's soft enough, I eat it with my mouth. Apples, bananas, melons, mangoes, peaches, and more. They're my healthy sweets. Vitamins and minerals and enzymes and the natural sugar. I eat no junk food sweets. You couldn't pay me enough money to eat any of them unless I were starving. And then we would do a lot of stuff. If you eat lots of fresh fruit, as I do, be sure to eat lots of fresh leafy greens. Alfalfa or colitis, which in English is lamb's quarter, kale, collards, broccoli, leaf lettuce. Lots of fresh, raw, leafy greens every day if you eat a lot of fruit, as I do. And always eat the fruit fully ripe, not half green, unless you have nothing else to eat. Soak up sunshine on most or all of your body most days if you eat a lot of fresh, raw, whole fruit. And exercise vigorously every day. Eat 5 or more cloves of garlic every day. Eat 4 to 6 tablespoons of freshly ground or freshly blended flaxseed every day. All of these things are important, very important, if you eat a lot of raw, fresh, whole fruit, as I do. And on flaxseed, start with 1 teaspoon of flaxseed 3 times a day. It's a very good fiber, and it's high in omega-3 fatty acids, essential fatty acids that we need for good health. But if you're not used to a lot of fiber, start out with 1 teaspoon 3 times a day, freshly blended or freshly ground, and then gradually increase. And eat 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seed 3 or 4 times a day. Some weeks ago on this program, I spoke about avocados. And I want to correct something I said then on how many to eat. Now, avocados are nutritious and delicious, and their fat is good fat, but too much fat, even good fat, is not healthy. So for most of us, average no more than 1 small avocado per day. And if you have serious liver problems, eat even less avocados or none until your liver gets healthy again. I very much enjoy going to the fairgrounds' huge outdoor flea market on Saturdays. I see people I know, I meet people, I eat a lot of fresh produce there. I love it. Some people take my photo or take selfies with me. And I also very much enjoy going to the outdoor rail yards market on Sundays. It's open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I get there around 12 or so. I get up around 6 a.m., but I do many, many things before I walk to the rail yards market. I love to see mountains. I love to see beautiful flowers. I love to see gorgeous sunsets. And I love to see naked bodies of lean, healthy, physically fit men, black men, brown men, well-tanned white men, men who have no shame about their naked body. On one wall of my room where I live, I have many photos of attractive naked men, brown, black, and white. The first place I enjoyed mixed public nudity, men and women together naked in public, was the Spence Hot Springs in the Jemez Mountains here in New Mexico. The year was 1972. I was 26 years old. And I fell in love almost instantly with being naked. We were born naked. And many native people around the world have had the good sense to take off clothes when it's hot and put on clothes when it's cold. And yet, highly educated people in this country, many of them, at least on the job, in scorching hot weather may wear full suits and then turn on the air conditioners in their cars and their offices, which contribute to the climate crisis, and use energy. Insanity, absolute insanity. I went to that hot springs dozens of times in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I have a photo of the official federal government sign in the parking lot of Spence Hot Springs, which said, bathing suits not required, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, bathing suits required, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I have a photo at home of that official federal government sign. It was a compromise solution for those who enjoy being naked 4 days of the week, and for those who do not enjoy being naked the other 3 days of the week. And people came to that hot springs from many states and other nations. Sadly, that official federal government sign was removed years ago. I have heard people can be arrested now for being naked at the Spence Hot Springs. I have not been there for over 20 years because I've ridden in no car since April 7th, 2001, over 20 years ago. And Spence Hot Springs is the main place I miss since I no longer ride in cars. And there are no buses. I ride in buses, but there are no buses that run close to the springs. And if I were there, I would want to be naked, and I sure as hell don't want to risk getting arrested for being naked. So my not being there is easier to accept. So for 49 years, since 1972, I have been an enthusiastic nudist. As far as I know, for many years, Albuquerque's most well-known nudist. I have photos my mother took of me naked as an adult. I was often naked as an adult in the presence of my mother and my father. And for many years, I posed naked for hundreds of artists, colleges in Illinois, art groups in Santa Fe, UNM, and other places in Albuquerque. Hundreds of artists. I enjoy living alone in my one sunny rented room, 9.5 by 12 feet, in the house of a friend. I enjoy many visits from friends, new and old, from young to old. If anyone could have told me when I was a kid and in my 20s, when I was addicted to candy and cookies and pie, that at 75 now, I would have one tooth left. How could I have believed it? Would I have changed my ways back then to eat only healthy plant foods? If anyone could have told me when I was a kid and in my 20s addicted to sugar shit, that at 28 years old, I would have surgery on the retinas of both my eyes, 10 weak spots and or holes in the one retina, 13 in the other. And I was absolutely terrified when I found out, terrified of going blind. How could I have believed it? And that problem was definitely related to the crap, the sugar shit that I was eating for many years as a kid and into my 20s. And when I was a kid in elementary school, a one-room country elementary school in Illinois, where my mother and my brother and my aunt had gone to school many years before, a one-room school with more than one grade, one teacher, outdoor toilets, one for the boys, one for the girls. And I came home probably day after day and ate a big bowl of chocolate ice cream, chocolate cake. Ice cream has no fiber. Cake has very little fiber. So when I would shit, it was an agonizing ordeal, as close as males get to what many women suffer in giving birth. What did I know back then about eating lots of fiber to have easy, large shits naturally? What did my parents know? What did my teacher know? Every day in my blended smoothies, I eat many healing herbs. Many healing herbs. And garlic is most important. Garlic is number one. Never cook garlic. It needs to be raw. Raw garlic is great for our immune system to keep us healthy from all the germs and viruses and bacteria that can bring us down, to fight off all bad germs. Now, antibiotic drugs that the doctors prescribe often kill good germs along with the bad germs, and that is no good, because we need the good germs to be healthy, to digest and assimilate the nutrients from the food we eat. I have a friend in Colorado, a longtime friend, who was given a very high-power antibiotic by a doctor. It wiped out the good germs in his bowel, and for months, he had low energy, he wasn't up to par, he suffered. So instead of the pharmaceutical high-powered antibiotics, eat lots of raw garlic and extra hot red chili pepper. The two of them together are like nature's penicillin. Garlic feeds the good germs and kills the bad germs. Garlic helps arthritis, high and low blood pressure, colds, flu, congestion, cough, earache, diabetes, gangrene, hepatitis, herpes, all infections, including tuberculosis and AIDS. Garlic, raw garlic, helps heart disease, helps prevent strokes, helps pneumonia, insomnia, so you sleep better. Garlic prevents and gets rid of parasites and worms in our bodies. And sometimes people think, oh, I live clean, I don't have any parasites or worms. Well, you might be real surprised. I remember many years ago when I saw in the stool after I shit a long worm. I kind of wish now I had kept it, dried it, or at least measured it. It may have been over a foot long. Oh yes, people in this society get worms. Garlic is good for sex, as long as your partner isn't freaked out by your garlic smell. And I'm not ashamed, not one bit ashamed of smelling like garlic. You know, isn't it amazing in this society that people tolerate cigarette smoke and the stench in bars and chemicals from new carpet, that smell, or inside new cars, or exhaust on the street, but garlic, you think it was poison when it is one of the healthiest foods on earth. It's a miracle herb. Each garlic bulb has sections called cloves, and depending on the size of the cloves, I eat 6 to 12 or more in my blended smoothies every day. If you do not like the strong garlic smell, eat lots of it yourself, and you may no longer notice the garlic smell of me and many who love garlic. And you'll be healthier, much healthier, in many ways because of that garlic. Most men I'm not sexually attracted to, even though they may be some of my best friends. I don't have to be sexually attracted to any man in order to be close friends with him. But that still leaves many men that I am sexually attracted to, but most of those men are not sexually attracted to me, or if they are, they do not show it. I'm glad for men and women as my close friends, even if I have no sexual attraction to them. I enjoy hugging men. I enjoy hugging women friends, unless I know they do not like hugs, especially from me. I do not want to be a pest to any friend. I do not want to be a pest to any lover. I cannot make any man or any woman become my friend. I cannot make any man or woman stay my friend. I'm a fool if I try to force that person to stay my friend. I cannot make any man become my lover. I cannot make any man stay my lover. And I'm a fool if I try to force him. My strong attraction for him does not guarantee his attraction for me. And much worse than having no romantic lover would be living with a man who does not want to be with me, or being with a man I do not want to be with. I can survive and I can enjoy life when I have no lovers. My eyes and my heart are open every day to connect with new lovers, if possible. I refuse to cage any lover for him to be only with me. I don't own him. I refuse to let any man cage me for me to be only with him. He does not own me. I can be openly, deeply, and honestly in love with more than one man at the same time. I'm attracted to certain men who are lean and healthy, honest, humble, dependable, men who are affectionate and passionate, men who are devoted to fairness and peace for all people on earth, men who are friendly and forgiving. Some questions to ask ourselves when we buy stuff. Do I need it? Why do I want it? Did I decide I wanted it before I saw it in the store or in a catalog? Can I get along okay without it? Can I make it myself? Can I build it myself? Can I borrow it from someone instead of buying it? Can I rent it? Can I barter for it? Can I use or find something else to serve the same purpose? How long will it last? How much will I use it? Will it sit most of the time unused in my room or in a shed somewhere? Can I buy it used at the flea market, a thrift store, a yard sale? Is it recyclable? How will I dispose of it? Is the use or pleasure I will get from it equal to the money that it costs? Can it be operated and repaired simply at low cost? Or will it cost a fortune to fix it? What is the quality of its materials? And how well is that thing made? Addicting kids to computers in our schools does not make the kids happier and smarter. Addicting kids to computers in our schools does not make them more creative, more alive. Using computers makes many kids, maybe not all, but many kids, lonely, alienated, depressed. I'm glad, so glad, I did not have to use a computer when I went to school. Most kids do not learn better from computers. Most kids learn best from people they know, face to face, and from nature, and from live play. The worst invasion of privacy in history has come through computers and smartphones as corporations and governments spy on people's lives in order to control them or sell crap to them that nobody needs. The internet floods people with tons of information, but what we need more than that is deep wisdom to live by, and persons we know face to face, who live simply, who live humbly, who live nonviolently and compassionately. Multitudes of women and men worldwide for thousands of years have spent billions of hours to cook food for their families and friends. Cooking food destroys most of the nutrients, not all, but most. Eating the cooked food instead of raw plant foods causes much sickness and suffering. Not cooking our food saves energy, saves pollution. Not cooking our food saves gas and electricity. Not cooking our food saves time in preparing food. And for the best health and best use of food resources, eating only raw plant foods, as I do, with no cooking, is best by far. But sadly, most people on earth are addicted to cooked food, and I was for many, many years, for most of my life. But I woke up with the help of many people over 22 years ago and changed to eating only raw plant foods. Sadly, most people on earth are addicted to cooked food, so using simple solar cookers, using the sun's free, strong energy is far better than any other way of cooking, if you're going to cook. In much of the world, using food for cooking destroys millions of trees. So if you're going to cook, use a solar cooker, which you can make for a few dollars, and use so many days in New Mexico where we have so much sunshine. Parents, make sure your kids know they can express their anger and their suffering to you, and you will still love them. You will still be affectionate to them. And if your child fears you will reject him or her if they express their anger and their suffering to them, to you, the parents. Their rage gets bottled up inside of them. And if that rage is never dealt with, that rage can cause that child to abuse others when he or she is a parent, to abuse others as a soldier in war, to abuse others as a mean, rude, brutal cop, to abuse others as a violent street gang member, or as a Hitler or a Trump. We need to face and feel deeply the truth about our parents. They're good and they're bad. Their strengths and their weaknesses. We need to mourn their abuse as we forgive them, realizing they also were probably abused by their parents. And sadly, they never healed in their hearts. Unless we die first, we all age. But what we eat, how we exercise, getting good sleep, getting sunshine, no cigarettes, no booze, no illegal street drugs, no unnecessary prescription drugs, having close friends, forgiving and apologizing. These things help us age much better. They slow down aging and can give us a healthy old age instead of a miserable existence waiting to die. 10 of the 12 U.S. presidents, the first 12 U.S. presidents, 10 of those 12 bought, sold, and enslaved black human beings. And these 10 U.S. presidents and thousands of white men and women stole the labor, stole the lives of millions of black people in the United States, often treating them much worse than their pet dogs, their pet cats. The white masters severely punished their enslaved black people if they tried to escape to freedom. Many of these white masters severely punished their enslaved black people if they began learning to read, because knowledge is power. Whites lynched thousands of blacks for many years in 29 states. And sadly, most white preachers in the South did not have the courage, did not have the conscience to condemn slavery publicly. And to be sure, if any white preachers did that, they might be run out of town. My poem, Jose. Jose, I met you summer 1991 at Jemez Hot Springs. Dark, handsome, bisexual, 23 years old, from Mexico. I had sex far more times with you than with any of the many other men I had sex with in my life. I was in love with you, Jose. You told me you wanted to marry a woman and leave this life behind. And as I understand, at one point you had already been married to a woman and had a little girl by another woman. But still, you came back many times to my apartment in the university area. If someday you reject drugs completely, if someday you have no more shame about romance with me, if someday you have no more fear about being seen with me in public, then maybe. But for now, adios, mi amigo. I loved you much. I learned much. Gracias, muchísimas gracias. All my friends are my teachers. And one time, Jose brought his girlfriend at the time to my apartment. This was many years ago. And I think maybe it was his way of hinting to her that he was bisexual, because he chose to bring her there to my apartment, knowing that I had photos of many naked men on my wall. I wonder if she realized that he was bisexual. I would not ride a motorcycle for all the money in this world. I knew a woman here years ago. Part of her leg was cut off, amputated, because of a damn motorcycle accident. My friend Louis Ramirez in Illinois many years ago was riding his motorcycle. He turned his head to speak to his girlfriend who was with him on the motorcycle, and he crashed, and he died. His brother Daniel, who was my close friend, Daniel Ramirez, was working as an EMT that day on the ambulance, and he was called out to the scene of the crash, and he found his brother dead. Devastating. I don't know if Daniel ever emotionally recovered from it, really. Motorcycles have no protection. And even if you're the best motorcycle driver in the world, if someone is distracted or on their cell phone, driving a car or truck, or having a heart attack, or a severe argument with whoever else is with them and crashes into you, you have no protection on a damn motorcycle. Marriage destroys many friendships. My parents might have been good friends if they had never married. Some couples become better friends after they divorce. If I had been my mother, I do not know how I could have coped being married to my dad. If I had been my dad, I do not know how I could have coped being married to my mother. They were married 48 years until my mother died, and much of the time it was emotional war. Fortunately, they did not booze. Fortunately, they did not own guns. I learned from them not to get trapped in a miserable marriage. I aim to tell the truth. I aim not to make foolish promises that I may later regret. Do I ever know myself or the other person or the future well enough to know for sure we both, not just me, not just him, that we both will do well with only each other romantically until death? That's a solemn vow many make and many break or want to break. A solemn vow I refuse to make to anyone on earth. I treasure being in love with certain men. Like many people, I can be deeply and openly in love with more than one person at the same time. Yes, to passionate romance, but lifelong marriage to one person, for me? Hell no. Never, 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 never. We teach children to share food and toys and friends. And how selfish, how cruel the child who demands that his friend have no other friends or playmates. We adults can learn to share our lovers with others and do it openly and honestly. We enjoy a variety of flowers, fruits, vegetables, colors, books, songs, and many of us also enjoy a variety of lovers. A loving parent can have a deep, special bond with each one of several children. Can someone be a faithful parent only if he or she has and loves just one child? If I were a loving parent of several children and you came to me and said, you got to pick out just one of them to love and let the others go, how ridiculous, how crazy, how absurd. And I feel the same way about lovers. I refuse to let any man cage me or fence me in romantically, so I have no right to cage him or fence him in romantically. Every man I've been in love with has taught me, helping me become a wiser, better lover, I hope. All romantic relationships, men and men, women and women, men and women, face hurdles, bumps, conflicts. So why put all our eggs into one basket? Invest our hearts into more than one lover and do it honestly. No lies, no double standard, no jealous fights. Do nothing behind the other's back. And do it honestly with all people involved. So if one lover backs out, or dies, or moves far away, we may feel less desperate, less abandoned, less devastated, more able to cope in our sad loss. Good romance is not slavery. I cannot make any man fall in love with me. I cannot make any man stay in love with me, and I am a fool if I try to force him. Hell no to cover-ups, lies, so-called cheating, double standards, insane jealousy. Yes to deep intimacy and sexual pleasure shared generously with more than one person. It's very hard to cope for years with close family hooked on booze. A sister, brother, father, mother, son, daughter. But it's even harder, even worse, for the person who is addicted to booze to live in their body with that craving for the damn poison alcohol, to lose their health, to age much faster, to die younger, to feel their life controlled by the devil in the bottle or the can. And in their sober moments, compliment your loved ones who booze. Compliment them sincerely on the good qualities they have, their good actions. Hug them warmly if they want your hugs. Encourage them to eat only healthy plant foods which can help them break the addiction to booze. Tell them and mean it. Tell them and mean it from your heart. I am not here to insult you. I'm not here to pick fights with you. I do not want you to insult me and pick fights with me. So if that happens when you're boozing, I will end the phone call or I will walk away until you sober up. We need to apologize when we wrongly hurt our loved one who boozes. And all of this goes also for our loved ones who are hooked on heroin or meth or cocaine. After my mother died, my dad became in some ways the closest living person to me, in spite of all our differences, all our tensions and fights. My dad thanked and complimented me many times on work I did in our family business and at home on our Illinois farm. My dad did not go to high school, but he wanted me to have high school and college. My dad suffered much sickness, and like many men, my dad found it easier to talk about his asthma than his buried fears and his feelings. Easier to talk about his headaches than his heartaches. Easier to talk about his broken bones than our serious family problems. Why keep secret what is precious or painful inside us? If I live to be 81, the age he was when he died, I hope I am as devoted to my work as he was to his. And during his last 6 years, when I returned to Albuquerque to live, my dad and I phoned each other hundreds of times. And most weeks he mailed me an envelope with a check, articles from newspaper back there, and mail that came there for me. His money gifts enabled me to do much work I was not paid for here. His last long trip my dad took, he came alone to visit me when he was 76. He started his day's work early. He wanted to be on time, never late. He liked to get his mail at the village post office. And after he died, I found he had kept my letters to him. He liked Western cowboy shirts with snaps. My dad was good to me in so many ways. Good night.
Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone.